And we're live. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Welcome to the Founders Live Minneapolis Ask Me Anything panel. How's you guys all doing? Are you guys excited?
Very
excited.
Nervous. I don't know what they're going to ask.
Looks like you're about to run for president, Jacob. You got the flag. In the
Very patriotic. It's the time to be.
Why should we vote for you?
Yeah. I'll pass on that one. Solid start.
I can see we've got some viewers trickling in here already. So we're going to kick off the panel with just a quick introduction because the replay will be available for the Founders Live Minneapolis community. So as everyone who is watching knows, Founders Live Minneapolis is a local startup pitch competition. So if you've ever seen the show Shark Tank, it's very similar in nature, but it's a live event where the audience, you, get to be the sharks. So you get to ask the questions to the 5 startups that pitch every month. You get to do the Q&A. You can ask everything from all the way to the soup and nuts to, what's their value, what's their value proposition, what are their sales to date, what's their go-to-market strategy, exit strategy, all the way to super high-level stuff, what's their vision, why do they start the company. So if you've ever been to an event, thank you for tuning into the live stream. And if this is your first time get in touch with Founders Live Minneapolis, thanks for tuning in. And these are our wonderful board members that run Founders Live here in Minneapolis. And we're actually going to go around here and introduce ourselves so that way everybody kind of can give a little background. And then if you could say your name, what you do at Founders Live Minneapolis, and then what you do for a career and how your particular skill set and expertise can help answer some of the questions in the live stream. So that way people can know what kind of questions they can ask. Because as we know, the reason we have the 6 of us on our board is because we all are very good at something different. So Adam, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I'm Adam Lofquist. I do marketing and branding consulting. And my role, surprisingly, is the marketing coordinator. I know, big shock right there. And I help organizations really get clear on their messaging and their target markets to improve their ROI, their sales and revenue, and just really focus on what matters for them. So that's what I have.
Awesome. Jacob, you want to go next?
Yes. So my name's Jacob Mischke. I'm the startup coordinator for Founders Live. So I find the startups to pitch at each competition. So if you're a startup watching right now and interested in our next event, it'll be virtual. Let me know, email me, and we'll see if we can get you in on the next one. What I do for full-time, my main gig is financial advisor. The 3rd generation of financial advisors for the family firm, Mischke Financial Group. I also have a side hustle called Versatach, and another side hustle where I have a podcast called Sons of Thunder. So pretty busy, but it's good. I like what I do.
And to kind of narrow in to answer the question of what kind of questions people can ask you, funding, finance for their startups. Yep. And I think you could also have a lengthy conversations on if there's any startups that are trying to import from China or how to manufacturing and outsourcing. I think you definitely can speak to that as well.
I can take a stab at it. We received our product today, so.
Awesome. Nick, you want to go next?
Yeah, so my name is Nick Welcome. I'm part of the Founders Live board as the sponsorship coordinator. So I'm the one that's looking to get funds. So if you or your company are very interested in being a part of this amazing group and the startups that we promote, reach out, let me know, and be happy to see if we can get you on board. In my professional world, I'm into the sales and development of a company called Eterna Media. We do influencer marketing and branding strategy. So if you have any questions on how you can get in sales as a startup, how you can reach the right target audience, then also how you can tell your story and get your company out there, let me know. I'll be happy to ask or answer for you.
Awesome. Megan, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Megan Singham-Setti, and I am the operations coordinator at Founders Live. And my role outside of Founders Live is I am a technical recruiter. I recruit for technical startups. So I can help if you have any questions about recruiting or HR as well.
Awesome. Josh?
Hi, my name is Josh Williams. For Founders Live, I am the event coordinator. What that means is I basically try to make our events as entertaining and fun and valuable as possible. So I really love to hear what people like about our events to make sure that we keep that up, because I want to keep people happy when they attend. Outside of Founders Live, I am a consultant for leadership skills. Basically, I train people in high performance leadership skills that focus on retention, improving performance, and developing good team culture.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so we actually have questions trickling in already. So if anyone can see here, Nick, Megan, and Josh, you want to point your fingers like this so they can see the screen. Right there, you can see we'll be popping up questions as they come in through the comments. So if you are watching, right now we're live streaming to 3 platforms: Twitter via Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. If you are on Facebook or YouTube and you put in the comments, we can actually see your comments, your questions, and pull them in here dynamically through our live streaming software and answer those questions for you. So your pretty face and your company name or whatever you want to, whatever Facebook page or YouTube channel you're logged into can get featured here on the live stream, and it'll show your question and we will answer it for you. So to kick that off, make sure that you guys are asking those questions on Facebook or YouTube. Unfortunately, we can't pull in questions from Twitter, but the ones that I'm reading from that were tweeted to us earlier or emailed to us, I'll be asking those here dynamically, just verbally. But let's ask the first question here that was emailed to us to kick off. And this is a question here for Megan. Why do we need to think about recruiting and when very few businesses are hiring right now?
Yeah, good question. So I think, we should always kind of be thinking about recruiting and people who work in our organization. But especially during this time, this is kind of the time that a lot of businesses are using to strategize about what you expect to happen in the future. So I would say that it's really important to think about recruiting, because we want to think about how are we going to build our business when everything kind of goes back to normal. So we might want to be thinking about what types of positions we're going to need in the future. Maybe you're going to be adding somebody else to your sales team, or you're going to be adding somebody else in kind of that critical role. So you want to kind of be thinking all the time about at what point you're going to need to add somebody. And it's more about recruiting strategy, I think, at this point. Given that there are some unknowns, you want to kind of be thinking about, well, if this situation, who would I need to hire? This situation, who would I need to hire? So I think it's just about looking forward to what the future might hold for your business.
Yeah, and Megan, I want to add to that. I think once the economy does open up again, there's going to be an onslaught of demand, right? I mean, you can see my hair right now. I need a haircut big time. And, there's going to be a bunch of people waiting to get things, and these companies are going to need help. So I think if they're prepared with the strategy in place, they'll be able to have a more seamless, smooth transition to meeting that demand.
Exactly.
Awesome. And if anybody else wants to sprinkle in any color commentary, I'll probably ask the question directly who I think has the most relevance, but then anybody can sprinkle in their 2 cents as well. The next question I want to ask here was also pulled in from us via Twitter. Somebody tweeted to us earlier, is how can financial advisors and insurance agents market their services on social media while staying compliant? And I'm going to direct that to Jacob.
Yeah, compliance in the advisory business is kind of the C word. It's not fun. It's not ideal. But thanks to some bad apples out there, the Bernie Madoff of the world, FINRA is pretty strict about what you can put out. So first off, I just want to say, if you are planning on marketing, make sure you are in line with compliance. If you're knowingly breaking a rule, it's not worth it. You could have your business shut down and not be operatable. So that being said, I'd say find out through your broker dealer or FINRA compliance, whoever that is, what you can do, what you can put out there. Likely you're going to have to send in your content through someone who approves it. Make sure you don't have any guarantees, 1,000% interest if you get this product, anything like that. And then when you do promote your content, be original. I'd stay away from just the generic, postings that your broker dealer gives you and you just tag your name on it. People like what you have to say. They like your content. It shows that you're thinking about the issues, not just listening to what other people have to say. And don't be afraid too of, consistent messaging. the power of repetition. In sales, they say you need to hear things 9 to 10 times before it clicks. So I'd say be consistent with it and make it original.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, Jacob. I think even though there are limitations, sometimes that's where you can get really great ideas from and be really unique in your perspective, and stand up from the crowd. I think there's a lot of kind of pull towards just copy and pasting, and that you just blend in with everyone else at that point. So it's not really worth it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So our next question here, I'm going to direct towards Nick. How do we fill our sales pipeline when all prospects are running out of funds right now?
Yeah, good question. So really with that, it's kind of going in line with what was just said about preparing ahead in both questions prior, but where's your company trying to go? So yes, you might, right now is going to be hard to get sales to come through the door. Everyone's feeling it. Money's tight, no matter whether it's for business or for personal funds. But depending on what industry you're in and what you're selling, you're always planning ahead for Q2, Q3, Q4. So with the time right now, going back to the recruiting strategy, same model, plan ahead. So where do you want to be by the end of 2020? What goals do you want to hit by 2021? And that's a way that you can start filling in the wide scope of your funnel, so that when we come to the fall and once this is all over, you have a game plan that you're hitting the road running on, and you're not getting reactionary at that point. You've been thinking ahead, planning ahead, and just having that strategy ready to go for you.
Awesome. I know that a few of you actually could probably touch on that one as well. So I'm curious, because a lot of us are entrepreneurs here on the board, or we're running practices that we are also salespeople. So what do the rest of you think about that?
I'll take a stab at it. I think it's also obviously right now, people are not rushing out to buy things. So this is a really great opportunity to build relationships and help figure out how, so you know who your target market is, figure out how you can help them even more, and how you can maintain those relationships. Because eventually the economy will come back, and they're going to remember your target market's going to remember who helped them out during this time, and not people who are always trying to sell to them. So I think that would be another thing, is that you kind of increase that pipeline, increase your future by helping people out and just figuring out how you can be serving them right now.
Yeah. Definitely taking a management approach. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just think, there's some companies that are even pivoting right now. They're still finding ways to sell. You're looking at distilleries, right, that are making sanitizer. A bunch of different companies are starting to produce different things. I have someone I know who tailors clothes, and right now she's making masks for people. So I think it's always good to focus on what your main gig is, your beachhead, right? But, there are other ways to get creative during these times and to make a buck.
Awesome. So we've actually got a question here from Amber Christian, who's a past Founders Live Minneapolis winner. So she won. When did she win? Do you guys remember?
Oh, was that November?
I think it was November.
Yeah. November. Yeah. So Amber, thanks for joining the live stream, and congrats on the winner and winning November's event. So Amber's asking, can you give some simple strategies that we can put into place to build up the recruiting pipeline of people that might be interested in working for us when we don't have the exact time frame on when we would be able to hire for the role yet? So I think, to kind of boil it down, a lot of founders might be asking these questions. They need to start having conversations with potential candidates for their next hire, but they don't know when that's going to be. It could be June if things turn around. It could be Q1 of 2021, because who knows how long this economic crisis, COVID-19, is going to be going on. So I'm going to direct that first to Megan.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to how can we get people interested in our company and tell others about our company. It's kind of almost like a marketing thing as well, because we want candidates to be interested and to know what we do. And we also want to know that, they'll be interested when we have a role. So what I would suggest is, because I kind of sometimes fall into this category as well. I see someone and they would be excellent for a role if I had that role, but I don't at the moment. So what I would do is if you come across those people either through networking, like online networking, or maybe you're having to browse on LinkedIn and you happen to see, a person that you think, oh, wow, this person would be excellent for this role. What I would recommend is just kind of reaching out to that person and saying, I see that you have these skills. Can we chat a little bit about my company? And you're not promising a role. You're not saying that you have one right now, but just talking to people, just networking with people who would be good for future roles. And just kind of, you can be honest with people. I think a lot of people understand that, yes, we're not hiring right at this moment. There's obviously a lot less companies that are, but you could still have them, kind of build them into your network. Goes back to what Adam was saying about building relationships from a marketing standpoint. You're building relationships from a recruiting standpoint. And we're all kind of in the startup world. You might actually not end up using that person for just fill a specific role, but maybe, you have a friend in another company who is like, hey, do you have anybody for this marketing role? And, Amber's like, oh, I know this person. I talked to this person before. So you might actually be able to help that person find a job, so you might kind of be that in-between person. And people remember that in-between person. And I think also candidates, they want to feel like they're part of the process. So once you kind of build up that relationship, it's a lot easier to, reach out back to that person and say, hey, we have a job available. Why don't you interview with us for this job? So it's more like informal, I would say, when you're building that pipeline, looking to see what kind of skills they have. And especially if you're thinking, oh, I might need this type of role in the future, just kind of seeing what's out there, who's out there, and who might be interested in your company. So I would say that's kind of a first kind of strategy. I would add them on, say, once you talk to them, you could add them on LinkedIn. So you still have them within your network, exchange. So exchange, so you have their email and things like that. So you have that information, but just kind of working towards just meeting with people and kind of understanding people's motivation on more of like a personal and professional basis.
Absolutely. One thing I'm going to add in there too, that Megan kind of touched on is I think it's much more important to start developing relationships with potential hires before you actually need someone in that position. Because let's say, as of today, we made a brand new position and we need to fill it. We're on a time crunch. Like, I can't delay that decision by like 6 months until I find someone right. I have to start interviewing people, and 2 or 3 interviews, whoever looks the best is who I'm going to pick. And those two or three interviews don't really give you a really good insight or understanding to that person. Whereas if you're like, oh, 9 months from now, I might need someone in this position. Let me start meeting with people. Let me start learning about them. Let me start developing relationships with them to see, what this person's actually like. Then when it's time for me to hire for that position, I already have a couple people who I think would be really good candidates. And it's not like that, putting on my interview face and saying my interview answers. It's no, I know them for who they actually are, and I think that they'd be good spots or good people to work in these spots with us or whatever. I think it's much better to get to know people before you have that time crunch on you.
Absolutely. One of the best hiring strategies I've ever heard of was the guy invited them out to dinner with the team. Like, they had one round of interviews. He's like, hey, next week we're going to go do happy hour. And I feel like you don't see that very often, but it's so important, the culture fit. And to see, how do they get along with the team? Is there chemistry there? And then you also get to know a person a little deeper too, right? So I think kind of thinking outside the box a little, what strategies can you do that aren't run of the mill? And then you can really get to know someone besides, like Josh was saying, the scripted, star answers to questions.
And even in this, where most people are working from home, a lot of people, I should say, not everybody. But you could just say, do you want to hop on a 20-minute Zoom call? Want to have a virtual coffee and have a 20-minute Zoom call where just kind of ask each other questions so they learn more about your business, you learn more about kind of what they're looking for. And then that's your kind of networking, but it's also getting to know that person better given the constraints that we currently have right now.
Awesome. So I'm actually going to pull in here a comment from David Stark. And Jacob, I'm going to give you an opportunity here to give a plug for David and who he is. So give some more context before we pull up his comment here.
It looks like his comment's up.
Right. Well, I mean, tell the audience who's watching who he is.
Oh, it was a preview. It was a tease.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the wisdom of David. I'm happy to see it. So David Stark, he has been the pitch coach for the businesses that have competed at Founders Live. And I think he is undefeated right now. I think every single business that has heeded his advice has won the competition. But he's a seasoned businessman. He was on the radio for a little while, wrote books, and now he does a lot of consulting with businesses and on really specifically on the teamwork side of things, the leadership, the stuff, kind of the intangibles that really, really matter. So we've been a great resource for Founders Live and a really great resource for these startup businesses that have pitched.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, David, for being a volunteer at Founders Live Minneapolis. You do awesome work, and you're part of what makes our community what it is. And obviously, the startups appreciate it because the ones that you've that have hit you up on opportunity to get pitch practice seem to be the winners the last 6 months or the last 6 events. So with that, I'll pull up his comment. So David says, Amber, to kind of answer, to give his 2 cents on Amber's question, many high quality people are furloughed right now and are not sure they will have a job when the crisis begins to lift. You can talk to them now and say if their job does go away at some point, that you would like to talk with them after when their job goes away, and that timeline actually might line up so that way your startup would be ready. So I think that kind of falls back onto networking, right? So if somebody you think is a good fit, even if they're not looking now, they might be thinking about that in the back of their mind, and they might not be looking because they don't think they have to. But with what's going on right now, you never know, a month from now, a week from now, 2 months from now, they might be laid off temporarily or long-term, and that might be the perfect opportunity. So verbalizing when you're networking with people and when you come across someone who you think would be a good fit, even though they're super happy and excited where they're at, you never know where their situation is going to be in 2 months, especially right now. So just tell them, hey, right now we're hiring for a new CTO for my software. And I know that you're a startup CTO veteran. And if for some reason your current gig goes south and you're looking for new opportunities, we're looking to hire that here in the near future. So hit me up. And if they don't know, they actually might know other people who know as well. So that's another secondary benefit. So anybody want to give any more 2 cents on that? Otherwise, we've got about half a dozen comments here that are waiting in the queue.
I think one more thing just to keep in mind is that those relationships that you develop now that person might not be interested in a position because they might have their own position, for the next 6, 12, however many months. But you never know, like 3 years down the road, they get someone, new to their workplace they don't get along with, and now they're looking for new opportunities. And you're the person they've known for 3 years, and you're the person who they have a relationship with, and they know that you in the past have been looking for someone like them. So if they ever are deciding to, change companies, you're probably going to be first on their list that they reach out to.
I totally agree. Okay, so we're going to pull up this next question here from one of our YouTube watchers. How can a startup business do at the same time besides waiting to find funding? And there are nonprofits. So I think to boil down this question, how can nonprofits?
Yeah, I think it's like, what can nonprofits do in the meantime?
Yeah, I think if we could kind of take this question in a couple different directions. So what can nonprofits do right now when funding seems to be low? Mm-hmm. And how are they the same or different than startups, especially right now? So I think that's the 2 directions we're going to take this. So to take that first question, what can startup founders or nonprofit funders do when funds seems to be low and the future prospect of funds seem to be scarce. What can they do about that? So I'm going to direct that first to Nick.
Yeah. So one thing that comes to mind is when you're a nonprofit, one of the big things to look for is your corporate sponsorships, and who are the big names out there, big players that you could potentially be their nonprofit they pair with, because they're always looking for one. Whether it be someone like 3M or it be a smaller startup company is looking to be attached and a part of them, because everyone has that humanitarian piece of them, and they're always looking to find a way that they themselves in the company, if they're in a higher position, they can give back, especially in the community field as well. So if you're unable to find, say, private funds to help you get going, reaching out and trying to find those corporate sponsorships and partners that you can pair and do long-term business with and help grow the full-on community around you.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to take that second question of how are nonprofits different than startups, and what can they be doing operationally right now to continue to sustain and help do whatever it is that they're doing as a nonprofit. And I kind of like to tackle this first piece of the question. I want to give a huge plug to Brian Ingram and his wife, Sarah, who run Hope's Breakfast Bar in downtown St. Paul, Minnesota. They are a gourmet, like they're 5-star, like Brian's like a celebrity chef, right? And the restaurant is just absolutely fantastic. I've been there a couple times, one of which was one of my favorite dinners that I've had in the last 6 months was with Darren Cotter from Inbox Dollars. And we went to his restaurant and it was amazing. And when COVID-19 happened, they took a total pivot from being a restaurant to being a nonprofit, give first community kitchen. So completely switched from for-profit capitalist, like this is a business, to now we are cooking. I think I read it on LinkedIn. It was some crazy number, like 1,000 meals a day, or maybe it was more. Was it more? Was it 10,000? I can't remember. Give or take, add a zero maybe. But they were making a lot of meals a day for families who have lost their jobs and can't afford to feed their families right now. So that's a nonprofit that literally didn't exist 2 months ago. And I'm sure that hopefully they'll pivot back into a for-profit restaurant, because selfishly I want to go eat there again someday, right? But
absolutely, and people will want to do that for businesses that operate like that, and the publicity too. I mean, you heard about that in the news from them.
Yeah.
So it's great advertising for them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's maybe something too for startups is what can you be doing right now to give back, pay it forward during this time when everybody's contracting, which, fiscally you have to be responsible. But if you're having less income, right, but you have more time, let's say that you lost some clients and and your Wednesdays are open now. Spend that Wednesday giving back, paying it forward, doing things like that. And then like Jacob said, that'll come around, that'll circle back around with you, whether it's PR, and that's not why you do it, but it's a secondary benefit of the PR and the brand loyalty, the customer loyalty, and the brand recognition of people are going to look back at 2020 and say, these companies helped me out when I was in need. And when it's time when they have the funds to work with somebody, they're going to pick you first. Right. So that's my 2 cents on that. We're going to go to this next question here from Olivia Welly. Are you going to have a big welcome back event when we are allowed outside again? And I'm going to direct this to Josh.
I would love to have a big welcome back event. I think our online streaming is fantastic, but I don't think anything can beat that just face-to-face, handshaking, eating, drinking together, talking for 45 minutes about whatever you have in common. So I am, as soon as we can, we're going to have an event, and I will do everything in my power to make it as big welcome back as possible.
As the event coordinator, this is your fault that we're not having an in-person event right now, right?
It is.
I'm here.
Many letters.
Come have the event with me. Feel free to come and join.
Yeah, at your house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Olivia, we're looking forward to that. And Josh, this might be a good opportunity for you to give a plug for our next virtual event.
Yes, absolutely. So our next Founders Live event is going to be May 14th. Is that correct?
Well, it's
Yes.
always the second Thursday night of the month.
Second Thursday. Yep. So that should be May 14th. You can go to. Do we have the Eventbrite link anywhere?
It is. So if you go to Founders Live, oh, here, watch this. If you go to founderslive.mn.org, which is our website, you can get tickets to all events. All events are posted there. So that's a way that you can get your ticket.
So the next one that we're going to have is going to be streaming similar to this. Again, people are going to come in. We're going to have the 5 companies pitch, and then we're going to ask them Q&A. We're going to vote for a winner. Same thing as last time. And then in addition to, in order to have that networking piece of it, we're going to be using an online system that allows for one-on-one chat sessions. So you have the opportunity to network with other people who viewed the events. You can talk about the people who presented, things you thought were good, things you thought could be better, what it is that you do, what they do, if you guys could work together in the future. So again, we're just trying to bring as much entertainment during the event and value during the network piece as possible. And I think anyone who joins is going to find plenty of both.
Yeah, and it's going to be really cool. It's like the first part of the event for the networking. It's almost like one-on-one virtual speed dating. And if you want to keep talking to each other, it's kind of like Tinder. You both say yes, like I want to get past the 2 minutes. Otherwise, you get swapped out for another person. Let's say there's 100 people that are tuning in. You'll rotate between all those people every 2 minutes for the first hour of Founders Live, and then we'll jump into the Shark Tank-like pitch competition. And then you can ask questions like Olivia did here. We'll show them so that way the startup founders can answer your questions. And then we'll still do the voting. There's still winners. There's still prize money. Amazon and Google are both partners with us, so the whole shebang. So it's gonna be super cool. I'm gonna go to the next question here that were submitted via email earlier. What marketing is working the best right now with COVID-19? And I'm gonna direct that to Adam.
Yeah, so I think just going back to, there is a very kind of cringeworthy commercial of how all the COVID-19 commercials sound exactly the same, and I could barely watch it. So I think just one, you need to stick to your target market and identify who they are, and be real and authentic. And kind of like Jacob was talking about with the financial planning, make sure that your brand and your voice is coming through in that, and you're focusing on how you can help your customers. So I think there's that, and then also I don't think right now is just not the time to make a sale. It's a time to build your brand. It's a time to get more followers and to get more following behind you, rather than that. So I think if you're looking at it that way, figure out where your target market is. So I think, and then figure out how you can figure out what your brand voice is if you have not done that already. So hopefully that helps answer the question.
Adam, you have this angelic light on you.
I know. There's a point on my window.
What you're saying has got to be legitimate.
I'm going towards the light. I don't know if that's a good thing, but that's.
Does that mean your word is gospel if you've got this angelic light?
It is, yes. No.
Nick, I'd like to hear your perspective on this question too.
Yeah, no, I thought what Adam said is right on. One thing, don't try and prey on fear. That's the worst thing you can do on it right now. Like you said, be authentic, be you. It also goes back into that account management style of how can you be the MVP for your current clients and who you're working with right now. So this is a good time to possibly even take a step back. Don't try and put too much into moving forward too fast, but have the game plan set up, be that MVP, and be as genuine as you possibly can be to what your company is, what they're going to do, and how you can help people move forward. Because one positivity for startups and smaller companies is there's going to be a lot of growth when this comes done, when this is all over. And the ones that are smaller right now, they have the less overhead to be able to really launch forward once society is back to normal or a new version of normal. But when you're looking at getting your message out there right now, be genuine, don't prey on fear, don't use scapegoats to get your message across in a different way. But just have that have you shine through. And when it looks at the clients that you're working with, just market the best you can for them, and be the best that you can be for the people that you're working with right now, because that's going to really show through moving forward too. If you can help out your current base as much as possible right now, they're going to see that and they're going to want to take that relationship and move it forward as much as they can. So, no, I thought what Adam said was right on.
Awesome. Anybody else want to tackle that? Otherwise, we can go to the next one. Sounds good. The next question I'm going to direct to Josh. We had another question that was submitted earlier. How can we be better leaders for our teams and clients when every company seems to be leading right now, but it's giving a bad rap? So I had to distill this question down from a longer email.
Sure.
They were talking about how a lot of people or companies are sending every freaking email, or every company that has ever had your email address somehow is sending you something saying, we're here for you. We're here. We're leaders. Trust us, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of getting almost negative connotation at this point because everybody seems to be getting that from every company ever. So how can you establish yourself as a leader, both internally for your employees and for your clients, without coming off as jumping on the COVID-19 bandwagon?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've also seen this. I think companies that are sending out those messages saying that, we're leaders, you can trust us, you should bring your business to us or buy our stuff or whatever they're doing. I think it's very clearly selling. And I think you can see that just in the format of what they're saying. Whereas I think, in my opinion, real leadership is simply people wanting to follow you willingly. So in order to do that, it's literally, what can you give to people? How can you help them that makes them more comfortable with you? What can you do that makes them trust you? It's not trying to trick them into a sale. It's not trying to, get them on the hook. So once they have money, they're going to come buy your stuff. It's like genuinely, hey, we have these resources available. Do you need any? Or we notice you have a history of this, can we help you with it? It's giving, not without looking for that taking part. And I mean, when it comes to like your team, I think it's very simple. This is, very difficult time. Staying indoors can be really, really challenging for some people, especially when it's as extensive as it has been so far and is looking like it's going to be. So simply reaching out to people and saying, hey, I know times suck. I'm really struggling. How about yourself? Is there anything I can do to help you? What can I do to make your time easier? Same thing with your clients. I mean, you don't need to professionally sugarcoat it. Times suck. We're not having fun. We're sure you're not having fun either. But we still believe in helping you. I can't guarantee anything, but if there's anything that we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to ask, because we want to make sure you get through this just fine. And when you give without asking, I think that really kind of strikes the message home. People, I don't think the word leadership pops into people's head, but kind, caring, compassionate, trustworthy, those traits used to describe leadership are what will pop into people's head, and that's what's going to stick in their memory when it comes to interacting with you. So giving without trying to take, I think, is the best thing you can do right now, and I think it's very easy to determine who is actually doing that versus who's just trying to sneak in a sale.
Yeah, I think just to add to your point, it's better to show people that you're leading than to tell people that you're leading. I think that's like the biggest frustration people have, is that there's a lot of brands out there who are actually leading the way, and they don't have to make a commercial about it. Even though I'm in advertising and marketing, I don't think that's the best way to spend your money, is because people can see right through that. So first off, if you're looking at consumer facing or customer facing, just don't talk about it. People will actually find out and learn about what you're doing. And then if you're looking at from an employee perspective, just like Josh said, be honest with them, have candid conversations with them. And also I think ask for their help. Because I think there was I can't remember what company it was, but it was this same company who he took a pay cut so everyone can make the $70,000 as some sort of finance company or payment company. And he asked his workforce, how they could get through COVID-19, and instead of him laying people off, and they ended up taking pay cuts, and everyone worked together. So I think, like, as a leader, your job is not to have all the answers, it's to help your team get to all the answers.
Absolutely. And actually that reminds me, Simon Sinek is a really well-known leadership expert, and he gives a TED talk where he gives an example of leadership. There was some type of a company that like sold I don't know, metal products or something like that. Anyways, the recession hit them really hard, and like overnight, like their sales like dropped over half. And he tells the story as like, you know, board members got together and some of them tried to bring up the topic of how are we going to do layoffs so we can save money. And the founder of the company like refused to attend those meetings because he was like, we're not doing layoffs. I'm more than happy to problem solve, but we're not going to do that by sacrificing other people so some can survive. So what they ended up doing was creating a program where everyone is required to take 4 weeks of unpaid vacation off. And then if everyone takes those 4 weeks off, you know, we'll have the finances to, you know, survive. But they also allowed people to exchange. So let's say if I'm higher up, I have more money, I don't necessarily need to get a paycheck week to week. I might, you know, volunteer to take a few weeks off of some other people. That way they can work and get their paycheck, and I just get, you know, extended vacation. And when all was said and done, like the overall result was they saved twice the amount of money that they were going for, and their productivity, their morale, their retention, all of it just shot up like crazy. Because he phrased it, it's better that all of us suffer a little than some of us suffer a lot. And I think that's like prime example of successful leadership.
Mhm.
Love it. Megan, I'd like to get your 2 cents too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking about, you know, as Josh was talking about kind of what he said about leadership and about, I mean, basically about your employee base is what it comes down to. And it will build morale. I mean, eventually we're going to go back to work in some kind of workplace, and there's going to be, you know, people who are still working in businesses going to go back to normal or somewhat normal, new normal, as Nick said. But people are going to remember, oh, this is the business that I worked for, and, you know, they didn't lay people off, or they still got people's opinions, or we had regular check-ins. Because I know there's a lot of people who haven't had regular check-ins, and they're probably, while it's nice to sometimes sit at home in your pajamas, there's a certain connection to your employees and to your company when you're having, you know, regular meetings through Zoom or through whatever. So I do agree with what kind of Josh is saying, or what he was talking about, that I mean, if you can do something, if you can kind of think of a way that you can, you know, work around or be there for your employees, that's going to really pay off in the long run. Because what I think it could happen to some businesses, I'm not saying it will happen to every business, but some businesses, they may have laid people off, and they might need to rehire those people, and they're going to be spending money to rehire, you know, when they have that need in the future, and it might be, you know, in a couple months. So it might go back to it might go back to a finance thing as well. Keeping your employees there and engaged is really going to have a lot of payoffs for your company brand, and for your employees, if you can. I mean, it goes down to, you know, obviously to finances of the company and everything, but I think that it's definitely good from an employee engagement, HR type of perspective, if you can keep your employees engaged and see how you can kind of do a work around the normal. And I think startups are pretty good at that in general, looking at things from a different perspective.
Awesome. So we've got another question here. your best piece of advice for winning Founders Live pitch competition. Excuse me.
David Stark.
So we're going to use this for the startups that are watching. And what have you guys identified as common traits or best practices or similarities between the startups that have won in the past? We've been going for, I think Founders Live Minneapolis has been going for 2.5 years. And then I think this particular board has been going for about a year. So what are the patterns that you've identified? What's your one gold nugget?
I can lead this one off because then I'm going to have to go run and grab my charger so my computer doesn't die. But for the startups, simple sells. Right? You want people to understand who you are and what you do and how it can benefit other people. And you only have 99 seconds to give that pitch.
Yep.
And so you can't go into a detailed analysis of cash flow or your funding mechanisms. You got to just tell it, here is what it is. If I was to present it to a kindergarten class. And I think the companies that can do that effectively are the ones who usually get the most votes and win.
Mm-hmm. I would say to add on to that also, not being able to go into details in the pitch, but being ready to talk about it, because you do get time to answer questions afterwards. And that's when a lot of time people reach out and say, okay, well, what's your sales figures? What's your plan? And they want more of those answers. So being able to give a quick answer on those on the back end, but not necessarily trying to just cram as much information as you possibly can into that 99-second pitch. I think that's where we've seen companies start fumbling over what their whole pitch is going to be in the first place because they're trying to be too detailed. But yeah, keep it real, keep it short and concise, and then be ready to answer those questions on the back end.
Yeah, so I think my input is kind of the same as Nick and Jacob, is sell the benefits or results of what you do, because I think a lot of companies, just like not always at ours, but just in general, listening to pitch competitions, like they talk about like all their financials right away, and you're just like, you never have time to actually know what, like, how they're going to help you or what the object of their business is. So like focus on the benefit and the results that you bring.
Absolutely. For me, I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is that the audience is going to hear a lot of pitches. They're going to hear a lot of information, and it might be from the time I'm presenting to the time that the voting starts, there might be 10, 15, 20 minutes that pass. So don't assume that everyone's going to remember all the numbers. Don't assume that everyone's going to remember your progress over the last 3 months. Identify what are the 2 or 3 things that you want people to remember about your company that would encourage them to vote for you. Like, for example, I know one of the winners in the past couple of months, I'm sure one of you remembers, the gal who was making clothing specifically for individuals with autism.
Oh, Molly Fuller?
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
I could not tell you one number that she gave or one statistic or anything like that. But what I can tell you is that she had a sister who was on the autism spectrum, and she remembered how difficult clothing options were for her. So she designed it to help not only her sister, but other people going through the same thing. That I still remember to this day, and that is why I voted, because she had like those 1 or 2, this is why my company is great, and this is why you should vote for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Megan?
Well, I guess I have a different perspective. I have actually, before I was on the board, I did pitch for Founders Live. I didn't win because there was a lot of really great other founders at that time. So, but my piece of advice would just be to practice your pitch a lot. Sometimes I get nervous because you want it to be perfect, but you have to really think about your speech and how deliberate it is. I actually got some good advice from a previous pitch winner that was just slow down, because if I talk too fast, I tend to use like, yeah, like, and those are just filler words. So what I really needed to work on was just slowing down. And obviously you can tell I'm a fast talker as it is. So I really had to think about that. Okay, I need to take it a little bit slower so that everybody can really understand my pitch. And then I'll also echo Josh and some of the others that have said the story is really important as well, because that's what people connect to. That's what they think of when they think of you and think of your brand.
Adam, you said your 2 cents already?
Yes.
Okay. Nick, did you?
Clearly, I would have not won the pitch competition with that one.
I can't remember. Did you? Yeah, no. Everybody answer that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you, Dick? What would you say?
I've got 3 tactical pieces of advice. Number 1, Jacob, who's beneath me here on the live stream as our startup coordinator, when he accepts you as one of the 5, let's say that there's a dozen that apply that month, and he hand selects 5 of them. If you're one of those 5, use the resources he recommends you. Like we said, David Stark earlier he offers 1-hour coaching calls with all the 5 startups that get chosen every month. He does that as a volunteer basis. I don't know what he would charge, but I mean, just think about it like this: if you can win, what's the prize money, Jacob?
In total, you can win up to about $15,000 worth.
Okay, so this is a $15,000 pitch competition. David's time is it's the return on investment's insane, right? You spend an hour with David and he gives you advice. That's worth $15,000 to your startup. Why would you not use that resource, right? So number 1, so you use the resources that Jacob sends you. So David Stark, there's Founders Live Corporate. This is we're one chapter of it was 60 cities, and I think we announced Japan like 2 days ago. So now we're in 11 countries. So 11 countries, 60 cities. There are resources or video series of past winners that say, here's my 2 cents, here's my 3 cents on why I think I won Seattle, Zimbabwe, Founders Live London, you know what I mean? And those are highlighted in a video series that Jacob shares with you. So watch those videos. And then second thing is stack the odds. This is a live event. This is it's voted by democracy. It's a popularity contest, kind of, the companies that we see obviously get more votes than others are the people who bring their friends. And that's just a tactical, maybe not the most ethical way to win, but it's helpful. And we almost always have the problem that we almost have to always give it extra time because we always have a tie, it seems like, every month because there's always 2 or 3 companies that bring a bunch of people and everybody votes. And then we have to get people to continue to vote so we have a clear winner. So that's another tactical thing is bring your team. You know what I mean? And number 1, that's good for networking because then you have more people talking about your startup at the event. And then tactical piece of advice number 3 is watch the past live streams. So we live stream every event we do and you can watch them. So go back, see the patterns for yourself, listen to Founders Live Minneapolis, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Watch those clips and see what the companies that ended up winning at the end of the night, what they did versus the others. And then you can start to identify, when like Molly Fuller told a really compelling emotional story. Renera told, they had this really great slideshow, you know what I mean? Whatever. And then you can start to pull those different elements and craft your pitch to be a winning Founders Live pitch. So those are my 3 pieces of tactical advice on that front. We got another question here. What is your best lesson you've learned since the hashtag remote work movement started? And I'm going to direct this first to Nick.
Ooh. Best lesson. It kind of goes back to the whole leadership thing. And that's one thing that my whole company learned was being interactive with each other. So we have standing meetings every single morning at 10:30 where we get together as a group. We give how our day went the day before, what we're doing that day, what we need help with. And just having a cadence like that has really helped this whole being at home in seclusion really keep me motivated and keep our whole team motivated. So finding ways to do that, not only just with your coworkers and your team, but with the friends and family you can't currently see right now, is just it's a little bit of work at first, but if you can get into a rhythm, finding a way to just stay interactive with each other really helps keep that motivation and keep you going to really still see that vision that you've been working at while you've been in the office.
Mm-hmm. And we've got a couple more questions here queued up, so I'm gonna limit everybody to like 1 minute response. So Megan, you want to go next?
I would say the best lesson I've learned is just about kind of balance. Before we started this chat, I was telling the other board members about how my kids are doing the stay-at-home learning, distance learning, and how that's sometimes a challenge. I'm sure that if we have any other parents out here who are watching the feed, you probably are facing somewhat similar challenges. So just kind of thinking about balance, and also just everybody's kind of in it together. I know there's a lot of other parents who are feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed because your kids are at home, you're having to help them with their schoolwork, you're having to do your regular office work. So I would say that just kind of thinking about balance and what's the most important, the most urgent for both my business 99 Yellow and for my kids to stay on track and learn has kind of been my biggest lesson.
Mm-hmm. Josh, 30 seconds.
Absolutely. So I think my biggest lesson that I've learned is that people are very clearly going to remember this time. Everyone's going to, 10 years from now, everyone's going to have stories to tell about when the COVID crisis was going on. And part of their remembering of what happened to them, laid off, furloughed, reduced hours, whatever, is going to be not only the hardships, but the good things that happened as well. So I think this is really your opportunity to step up and do things for people to make their lives easier so that you will remain part of their story when they tell it. Because I think that's really going to increase their loyalty to you as well. It's going to, help them get through a hard time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Adam?
So create and follow a schedule every day that has one thing that you want to accomplish, and make sure you accomplish that thing.
Focus. I like it. Jacob?
Yeah, I think get outside, take breaks. When you're inside all day, it's hard to, the stresses build up, the anxieties build up, right? Your amygdala is activated, it's firing. But when you go out and look into a field, like a vista, a lake, whatever it is, your prefrontal cortex is activated, and that's your problem-solving part of your brain. That's the big picture thinking part of your brain. So if you feel stuck and confined, you're not able to come up with the creative solutions. And nature, is a brilliant friend. And there's a solution when you go outside of that space and go off into something more natural.
Love it. And I want to echo that one a little bit. While also saying, make sure that you're following the, healthcare compliant stuff and recommendations, stay 6 feet apart. But anyway, selfishly saying that, immunosuppressed person here. No, but I think that was going to be my answer too, is be active. I went rollerblading yesterday. I got a nice skid mark on my knee to show it, but I had the best night of sleep I've had since # remote work movement started yesterday, because I was rollerblading up the hill to the St. Paul Basilica. That's by the Capitol. Oh my God, that was awful, but slept like a baby. And then I was super productive all day. It was taking those 2.5 hours out of my day to work out yesterday made my day today, I would say 50% more productive than it's been in weeks. It was just insane. Slept like a rock, and so highly recommend that. Okay, so we got other questions here. David Stark also commented on our previous question about winning Startup or Founders Live, and he said, be clear about what is different and better about your service or your product for the customer. Tell great stories. So thank you, David. I totally agree. We got another question here from one of our YouTube watchers. So can nonprofits pitch? And I'm going to point this to Jacob.
Yes, nonprofits can pitch. Absolutely. Would love to have whatever sort of business apply. Obviously, like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, you guys aren't allowed to apply. Sorry. But if you're a startup and you got a working product and you're looking to make some noise, gain some exposure, I think it'd be in your best interest.
Yep. So if you're a nonprofit and you're starting out, absolutely, you're welcome to pitch. You have to have some traction. You can't just be napkin idea, right?
Yeah.
But definitely reach out to Jacob about that. And this is a good opportunity to put this here. So if you go to foundersLiveMN.org, there is a link to the application that Jacob gets fed every month. And he can look through those applications and apply. So Yeah, so you're welcome to apply through that link at founderslivemn.org. And we look forward, or Jacob is looking forward to reading your application. We are going to wrap up the live stream here. We're at 7 o'clock. And if there's anything that anybody wants to give a plug for or any other comments, I would like to show here Olivia Willie's comment. Are we going to have a big welcome back event when we're allowed outside again? And like Josh said earlier, yes, we absolutely plan on that. We're looking forward to it. But in the meantime, Josh, do you want to talk about our next event and where they can go for that?
Yep, absolutely. So the Founders Live link that Dick just shared should have a connection to our Eventbrite page where you can get tickets for our next event. If you can't, if for some reason you can't type this in, if you simply go to Founders Live or go to Eventbrite, type in Founders Live May, our event should pop up and you can sign up for that. If you get a ticket now, it's not going to cost you a penny. So I would definitely recommend getting the free tickets while they last. And similar to what Dick was saying earlier, if you're going to be pitching and tickets are free now would be the time to stack the deck. Get people to sign up for the tickets along with you. Basically the more people, the better the event's going to be. And I think that people are really looking for this opportunity to professionally connect with one another. So I think the next event's going to be really great. Yeah.
And not only are tickets free timeline wise, but there's also a capped amount of tickets that are available for free. Then it starts to cost money. So definitely jump on there and snag them. Thank you everybody for joining today. Everybody who tuned in. I was looking at the numbers. We had people coming in from Twitter, from Periscope, from Facebook, from YouTube. We had comments that were tweeted to us earlier. We had people that were emailing us questions. So thank you so much, everybody who was sending us questions. We absolutely, you are what makes Founders Live, Founders Live. And us here in Minneapolis are so excited to be a part of that community. We're all volunteers. We don't get paid for what we do. We get one free drink at the after party, and that's it. That's right. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and obviously fellow board members. It was a lot of fun. So we appreciate you all tuning in and providing your expertise again for free tonight. This is above and beyond what we normally do. So thank you for giving your brain power and your juice to the different founders that were tuning in tonight. So thank you. All right, and with that, we're going to end the live stream, and probably the 6 of us will chat and have a good time after this. So thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.